everyone. Thanks for joining the Esoteric Nexus live discussion. My name is Whitney. I teach meditation at the Billings First Church with Dixie. My big interests are self-love and boundaries. I've taken quite a few classes on both and how to generally reach a point in life where you are at peace both mentally and spiritually.
I'm Braden. I like to do energy work and oracle readings. I'm really passionate about self-discovery and...
Oh shit, are we even going live?
It was a good test run.
Alright. Maybe it caught that. We're having some internet connection issues, so maybe we caught the first half of that. We'll start again. Hello, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us. We are Esoteric Nexus. This is our live discussion. My name is Whitney. I teach meditation classes at the Billings First Church with Dixie. My big interests are self-love and setting boundaries. I've done quite a few classes on both of those, and then in general how to get to a point in your life where you are at peace both mentally and spiritually. And this is Braden.
Hello. Braden. I like to do energy work and oracle readings. I'm very passionate about self-discovery and all the avenues that you get to travel down while you're doing your whole self-discovery, understanding of self, being okay with who you really are, self-expression, what have you.
Ooh.
And today we are going to talk about, well, we're ranting. We're ranting about our triggers, the things that really trigger us here in the now, things that maybe you would like to work past, understand more, what have you. And with that, I'm turning it over to Whitney.
Triggers. What are some of your triggers? Please share them in the comments if we haven't already spoken about them. I'm going to start with one of my big pet peeves. Triggers is feeling unheard. And I feel like that was, oh my goodness, it means a lot to me because growing up I was raised that my voice matters. I have a voice and it deserves to be heard. And funny enough, you never think about how big it was. It was a really big thing. So in my previous marriage, that was dampened. It was slowly ground down over time that my voice didn't matter. When I would bring things up to him, we'd flip it right back around to what he said or how his feelings are hurt, and we're not even going to gloss over the fact that that I said something about me and my feelings. That was the initial issue, is that my feelings are hurt. We weren't talking about your feelings. I care about your feelings, but we'll get to those, you know, after we talk about the thing that I brought up. How dare you dismiss it?
That one can be a big one, especially when you do have somebody that you're used to being able to have that kind of a communicationship with, you know. And as you go out into the world, you start coming across other people's, their ways of conversating and talking and whatnot. It gets to be a struggle to be understood.
It makes me feel like people don't care about what I think or feel. And I feel like some of that is an assumption that they don't care about how I feel or what I think. But when my voice is getting dampened a lot, then at that point I need to speak up and be like, hey, I was talking. So like for interruptions, oh gosh, that was a big one in my previous marriage. Being interrupted constantly. He'd talk over me. So that's a boundary I set up. It's my voice matters. So don't interrupt me. And in situations like with my ex-husband, he's gonna do that all the time. So I have to interact with him. So I have found ways to politely interject, like, I care about what you were saying, but I was speaking. I would love to talk about X, Y, and Z after I finish speaking. Please let me finish. Or, I care about what you have to say too, but I was speaking, you interrupted, and then continue. Or, I actually wrote down a list of 10 ways that I could politely return the conversation back to what I was saying.
Oh, I like that.
That helped a lot. But
and then maybe coming from it or setting the scene, if you will, for your conversation. So like you're hurt, you're upset, you want your voice to be heard, but a lot of people listen to respond, right? Like that's a really big yeah, it's a really big, and it's not something that a lot of us are even aware that we do or how often we do it.
that is so true.
And so it's learning to really, I have learned that through teaching myself how to sit in silence and really listen instead of listening to respond. It's helped me recognize how much I'm actually ready
Hi,
to
Summer.
just
Summer
jump
says
to
speak
it.
up.
Oh.
There's a lot of wind sounds.
That's a bummer. I don't know. I don't talk loud, guys. I'm sorry. My voice does not project. Say it with your chest. So,
We'll just bring it a little closer, get real close and personal.
So I would say set the scene for your conversation. And that really is just addressing like, hey, I'm hurt and there are things that I'd like to talk to you about. And I know that some of these things are going to trigger you, but I'd like to have my turn to say my piece. And then we can address what triggers and we can go from
So
there.
one of my pet peeves, sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
One of my pet peeves is I work really hard to understand others and consider their feelings and how they're going to take what I say. So just being the person that's always considering how other people feel or whatnot, just will you please consider my feelings as you dismiss me?
So, maybe part of that is that's kind of like the same thing as like walking on eggshells a little bit. It's a very degree of that, right? And you're doing it
Walking
with
on
yourself.
eggshells.
Well, think about it. If you're trying, there's a fine line between getting your point across and considering somebody's feelings, and it's really beneficial to be able to find the balance in that. You don't really want to walk on eggshells with people when you're trying to get your feelings out.
Mm-hmm.
But you also know that if you come on too strong, that it's going to push them into a defense mode where they're not going to respond accordingly. So I think it's when you are starting to get to that point where you're antsy and you're irritated with them because you took the time to really articulate your thoughts. Well, first off, you took the time to articulate your thoughts, but did you give them the time to be able to do the same? Or are you just having a conversation? And then on top of that, just if you've articulated your thoughts to that degree that you're annoyed that the other person isn't responding in kind, then that means you've got to kind of bring it back a little bit on the amount of care that you've given to that person's needs and feelings, which at the end of the day, even though you've got to be mindful for, they're not your responsibility to be a part of.
You are not responsible for other people's reactions.
Thoughts, feelings.
Thoughts, feelings. Yes.
You got to be mindful of them because we're
Yes.
human beings, and with love. But sometimes that love is a little bit tough. Indubitably.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of rolls right into the whole. Just I don't know. It's a lot easier to have a lot less angst towards people as you learn to understand yourself and really see it from your own position and the things that you would want. And then, like, if you can see what that other person is going through, just take a moment and put yourself in that space. And then think about your own conversation that you're having with you, and you'll see, like, oh, wow, that's probably where they'll get defensive. Oh, it's a weird switch, but it really helps. And then on top of that, it also shows you where you don't have to be so, like, coddling with it, because you're starting to see the patterns, if you will.
Yes. So I think one of the things that could help a little bit is it's not about you. It's about the person that's speaking. It's about their feelings. Now, regardless of the fact that it probably has to do with something that you did or said or whatever, but it's about their feelings. So the goal is, how can you reassure that person that they are safe? You did not have harmful intentions. So
Wow.
it's just it's helping them feel better, and it's not gotta be about the attack against you and what you did wrong.
Yeah, well, and then on top of that, like you said, it's not about you. So you also got to remember, like, when you're discussing the things that have you triggered, maybe explain or have your mindset on having them understand the trigger of where it's coming from more than what they did in the situation. Because what they did in the situation was
Yes.
the trigger. So even if and you got to remember
How to communicate that effectively, that you are not, that you did this, you did that.
Yeah.
Is I feel
like, well, and you got to remember, it's not an attack on them. You're not
like my thoughts and feelings and whatnot don't matter because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I feel.
Well, and it even goes as far as, like, when you did this, it made me feel this way. Well, then when you start explaining all the things that it made you feel, they automatically think that what they did was a direct cause of all of those things, when really you're just telling them, hey, you did this thing right here, and it just set off all of these over here. But they're not seeing it from that point. So finding a way to deliver it to them where the focus isn't on what they did, the focus is on what it caused,
Yes.
or rather what it triggered, which
One of the other things, I'm gonna go a little further on this. I saw this other TikTok video. This lady, she's got autism, and I love that she speaks really fast, and I think her TikTok handle is Thought Knots. She's awesome. One of the other frustrating things about being somebody who is emotionally aware of a lot of other things that some people don't take the time to dig to, but I have. I've done a lot of research and a lot of trying to figure out, so when you take the time to explain to somebody your feelings and blah 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 blah, or to the point where you feel unheard, it's like I took all this time and effort to deliver this in a way that I thought it would come across to you, and I feel like I just got dismissed. Or why would I want to take the time and effort to deliver another message across to you about how I feel when I don't feel like you're gonna hear what I have to say anyways?
And then that ties into the two. It ties into not taking offense to people when they can't when they can't meet that boundary, so to speak. Remembering that, like, you have their boundaries there for you. It's not for them. If they can't reach it, they can't help be a part of that, they can't reach your bare minimum, then you're gonna have, it's just easier to acknowledge that, accept it, and not be angry at them for it. Now, part of you is going to be angry because you had hopes and dreams with that person, whether it's romantic, it's friendship, it's partnership, business, what have you. Like, we all have this hidden expectation of the other person in that relationship. And keeping that in perspective and recognizing that sometimes people aren't going to be who you thought they were. And that's okay. It's either something that you can acknowledge and it can be still a copacetic thing, or sometimes it's so toxic that you've got to walk away from it, And everything
yes.
in their time and season.
Yes. Know when it's time to walk away.
And do it with love. Don't do it out of hate. Don't do it out of bitterness. You love that person. You appreciate the lessons that it brought into your life, even if you maybe didn't want to have to go through them with that said person. Yeah.
Yes. Buddha said something that really stuck with me, and I tried hard to hold on to it through my divorce. He says, in the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things that were not meant for you.
And it makes it easier for confrontation's sake. It makes confrontation easier when you don't have fear of letting go, when you don't have that attachment on the things that really you don't need. And that goes all the way down to, I was talking to my cousin the other day. We were talking about time management, how much we hate managing our own time. And really what it boils down to is a Libra wants to be free, but they want to be free to be lazy. They have all this extra time, these moments that they're going to sit there and they're going to play on their phone, they're going to veg out. It's just what we do. But if we structured our time, we would lose that time because it would become time that we were productive with, which we really want anyway.
Right.
But it's that fear of losing your sense of freedom to be lazy, to just not have to do anything. So it's remembering that it's not forever. And in fact, even if you are going to mostly be productive with your time, you can, by any means, at any given point in time,
not forever?
take a moment. Your schedule, when you schedule time, it's not forever. It's not that same rigorous schedule forever. There will be changes, whether it's because of activities in your life or because you're just bored with the routine that you have. There is something that will always instigate a change. So remembering that, it doesn't feel like you're tying something to yourself forever. And that's kind of the same thing when it comes to friendships, is remembering all things change, whether it's good or bad, it's up or it's down. We enjoy and appreciate the moments for what they are, but we don't hold on to those moments and possess them and hope that they stay the same. We want to keep stellar friendships and we hope that they're always stellar, but that's really, it's unrealistic to expect something to stay the same, because nothing in this world does.
I'm trying to think of how Bashar says it. I saw this video just the other day about oh goodness gracious. Dang it.
I don't know.
It was something about letting go of control, because you think that your brain is in control and you have to analyze exactly how things are going to play out, but that's not what your mind is for. Your mind is for analyzing how things happened, is what he says.
Yeah.
And then your higher self
chooses the next set of circumstances, in a sense.
Worries about how to interpret that. Oh gosh, how's it go? You know what? I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it eventually. Oh, it's going to bug me.
That really
I don't know exactly how it was.
That's
but
that whole the less control you try to have in your life, the more control happens. It's that paradox, that juxtaposition. The more you chase something, the farther away it gets. The more you want peace in your life, the more chaos you have. The more you want that money, the more you are chasing the almighty dollar without really ever having it, right? Because having something is learning how to appreciate and enjoy it in that moment, in the now, right? So having control is predetermining the joy that you could have in a moment. But really, if we're a creative species, and that's what we're here to do, is be creators, to love and to find understanding, then that would mean we create how each moment happens as it happens to us. So that fight, that you're going to have with somebody, you create how that's going to go. Is it going, and you don't have a full say in it, you know, you're co-creating with somebody.
As
So
opposed to being open to how it can develop.
Yeah, well, and you know, you're going to have your goal in mind. I want this to be successful. But wanting to be successful and controlling how to get to success are two different things. At the end of the day, it's, did it get to that end result? It doesn't matter which path you took to get there. It's just getting there. And that might mean jumping back and forth between 15 different paths to make the one true path to it. And it's not going to be the one true path for everybody. It'll be
Water
different with
takes the
everyone.
path of least resistance.
Yes,
So instead of fighting how it has to go because it needs to go this way, being open to
And we're used to
how
like,
it shifts and changes.
and as you have a successful track
I can
record,
see it in my head.
like we are creatures of habit, right? So we see success and we follow after that success. So if we shift our focus over from oriented success or goal-oriented success to I would call it abstract. When you can be successful while working in the moment with something, being malleable, being open to allowing flow to be like water, that success record will be something that is infinite because it allows for every option. That's what Bruce Lee meant by be like water. That's what he meant when he created Jeet Kune Do. It wasn't just a series of fighting stances that were the ultimate set. It was a series of stances that kept you open to have multiple possibilities or options left to you.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it just came to me.
Summer said, before discussing our own triggers, we make a habit of starting the conversation with holding hands and reminding each other of our love and care for each other, which we find helps us to listen, to understand, not to respond.
I like that.
Be there as a best friend, hear each other out. That is beautiful. You know, you teach each other how to communicate. You teach people how to communicate with you. So the way that you approach it is gonna set the tone for how it starts.
And then we're going to tie that into back to when you said you had a dad that gave you a level of understanding. He understood your way of
He taught me how to communicate.
Well, he understood. You know, you still get your own style out of it, and he flowed with that. You had one but so now we got to recognize that a lot of our triggers that we have and a lot of our hard conversations that we have, it isn't a matter of like who's saying what. It's really the goal in the beginning is communication,
Understanding.
well we'll go even, it's communication. Like understanding, yes, the understanding is the goal, that's what you want to get, but it's learning effective communication with each other.
So
it's
it's
finding the
those words,
pathways of
effective communication.
Yes, it's
Are
finding
you
the
effectively
pathways.
communicating? Because if the other person isn't understanding what you're coming across, then you are not effectively communicating with them.
Well, and see, we want everybody to understand us. We want everybody to
And that's
have
impossible.
and have our way of communicating. So we also, in turn, in order to be able to have that,
We
we've
need
got
to learn other people's style of communication.
so that way we can show them ours. So it's not like you're caving to the way that they communicate for their sake. It's so that way you can get back to full circle. I mean, it's like if everything is a juxtaposition, everything is either on one side or the other. It's the infinity sign. Like we are living, walking infinity signs, and we are striving to learn a balanced lifestyle that emulates that. How do you have both sides work in tandem with each other without coming across as a hypocrite? Without coming across as say one thing, do another, you know? Because there is a lot of things that are contradictory, but they work in tandem. And it's learning and understanding those. And as you learn and understand those and see how those can work in your life, you're open to a lot more.
Ooh, I feel like that goes into your trigger.
Yeah.
Like you have your style of communication and other people have their style of communication, and it's frustrating because somebody might have an unhealthy way of communicating.
A very domineering way of communicating.
Yes, go ahead, Braden.
Yeah, my trigger that I am learning to overcome is dealing with people that exert unnecessary control in your life, that's sabotage, and they do it You know,
I quoted narcissistic personalities. He says it's more sabotage, but
oh, you know, I think they go hand in
make
hand.
it what you will.
It's one of the ow. Like, I think you'll always see that from a narcissist, but I don't think narcissists are the only ones capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I instantly perceive it as they are doing it because they relish the amount of control they have. And on the surface level, that really is a big part of it. But if you get deeper into it, it brings them joy because it's a sense of control. And if it's a sense of control, then that means that's something that they lacked in their childhood. Whether it was they didn't get a say in life, whether it was because they didn't get to do any of the things that they really wanted to do, whether it was because they were forced to live a life that they didn't want to live, whether it's having to go to work to help your parents, or giving up more money than you feel like you should, or what have you. Sky's the limit. But what I'm saying is, I guess I'm getting off track, but what I'm saying is when you recognize these triggers, these things that trigger you, not only is it a trauma response that you're dealing with yourself, but you may be experiencing, or more than likely you're experiencing somebody else's trauma, and it's reactive, and this is just how
reactive,
they learn how to cope. So when it's reactive, you know, it's easier to understand a person and not have so much hate and animosity towards their actions when you see a possible outcome. And beautiful thing is, you don't have to be right. That person may just do it for the sheer love of it. But for your own sanity, telling yourself, man, this person probably had control issues that he had to deal with as a kid. He probably didn't get to have his say, or she didn't get to have her say. All of a sudden, it's not as much of a big deal to you. It doesn't get under your skin as much. And if we're creating our own reality, unless we go ask that person, that's enough. It can be enough. You don't have to chase it past that. And then you can recognize it for what it is. And if it's somebody that you actually have a friendship or a relationship with, then yeah, you know, take those steps to address it. But if it's some passerby that's just really making your life hell, how many times are you going to see that person? This will be the only time that they got the opportunity to exert control over you, and if you give them the emotional satisfaction of it, they got a piece of your world for that second. And that's enough. You don't got to give them more.
Boundaries. 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 When you set boundaries, people who are very controlling are going to be real upset that you set the boundaries. You are not responsible
Hi, Rick.
for how they react to your boundaries. The boundaries aren't for them, not for their comfort. It is for you.
Yep, most definitely. And remember, your boundaries really are. It's just, it's your, it's kind of like your list of, not expectations, but your list of standards. It's what defines your own values and cores as a human being, your core values. And that's going to be, you know, based on those, that's going to be the guideline for the kind of people you allow into your life. And the beautiful thing about setting boundaries is the people that you don't want in your life, you will have a limited amount of conversations with. You know, you hold on to that boundary, and you don't have to go over the same situation over and over and over again. You'll have gotten to a point where eventually you just don't run into those kind of people. You see them from a mile away, you already know how much you're willing to invest and whether it's worth it or not, and you can keep stepping on, you know? So remind yourself, even though you're having hard conversations now with setting them boundaries, it does get easier. And if it doesn't get easier, if the talks don't get easier, the talks get less, which is also in turn something that makes life easier.
One of my other triggers is when people's actions don't match their words. That one really bothers me. I have had so many issues with my ex-husband, and I feel like a lot of my issues with interacting with people, friends whose actions didn't match their words, I realized I was never taught how to set boundaries.
And it's surreal.
So
most definitely.
When I thought I was setting boundaries, it was mostly just saying, hey, I don't like it when you do that, please don't do that. And then they do it, like, hey, like I said, please don't do that. And then it kept happening, and then, well, what are you going to do when it keeps happening? Get angrier was all I knew. So that was hard.
Well, and it's frustrating too, because when
You gotta be about your words. You can say everything you want to say under the moon, and that's what has happened is people will tell me, oh yeah, I understand, I hear what you're saying, I'm going to regurgitate it all back to you because I was listening, and then I'm going to do it for a day or two, which is what my ex did,
fall off the band,
or say they're going to do it and then you never see them do it.
And it's frustrating because from personal experience, from being that guy that would say I do it and then I wouldn't follow through, is it makes
just don't want to be on camera.
It's reinforcing the idea of not choosing yourself. Every time you say you're going to do something and you don't follow through with it, you're lying to yourself. And then you get comfortable with lying to yourself, so you don't hold yourself as accountable because you're already in the pattern of not sticking to it. And it starts small, and sometimes it starts away and becomes more personal. It starts with friendships and trying to be there and then not showing up, and then not showing up for yourself. But more often than not, it's the other way around. You say you're going to show up for yourself and then you don't, and because you don't show up for yourself, it's really easy not to show up for others. And so it's something it took somebody basically telling me, like, hey, you aren't choosing you when you're not sticking to what you say you're going to do. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect at it, but you have to put desire into doing those things and following through. Even if it's just for one day, every time that you do something you say you're going to do, it reinforces that you have picked yourself, that you have chosen something that you wanted to do for you. And then you find that you have a different kind of willpower, and things that you really don't want to do are a little bit easier. But and then there and again, it's just how do you get that across to somebody? How do you effectively communicate that? And it'll be different with everybody you talk to on how to get them to realize that they're not showing up for themselves. But something about these kind of conversations.
Having an issue trying to relate this to my ex. So
but have you asked him, because if you make it about him, he'll have to look at it, right? Like, if you tell him, hey, look, I don't appreciate this because this is what you're not doing for you, now, and it's bleeding off into
no, because it was always my hurt feelings. When we would, before we finally divorced, we would break up, and then he would say he was going to do these things and fix all the things that were wrong, and then he'd do it for a couple weeks, and then he'd go right back to the old behavior of degrading me or cussing at me and whatever. And hey, again, remember we talked about this, these are my feelings and you're trampling all over them.
And I think there's something to recognize in that, and recognizing that you are dealing with a mental illness, right? If narcissism is something that really was a part of his life, and that really is a diagnosed thing, so to speak, then recognizing that you're dealing with a mental illness, and remembering that person isn't the mental illness. It makes them act that way, and that sucks.
If only I was as emotionally aware then as I am now.
And it sucks, right? But in the same token, being able to recognize that's where you can draw a hard line. If you're not in therapy for this, if you're not actively working on this mental illness, whatever it is, it's no different. ADHD, man. I've had to do a lot of self-work. You think just because you're ADHD and you explain why you are the way you are, that's enough, but it really is not. You've got to actively work on your things, and it doesn't mean you've got to fix yourself, but it's learning how to be effective with your weaknesses and turning them into strengths.
Yes.
So, but what I'm saying with that is going forward with other people that act the same way, that don't give that same they have those same signs, it's going to be one of two things. It'll either be mental illness, you'll recognize it, you'll step away from it, or you've got to stay open-minded and remember that all of your past triggers are triggered because of a mental illness that you had to deal with indirectly. And so you can't take that thoughtscape into your new conversation because we don't know how that person is yet. And then that opens you
Ooh,
up to
that's
be
deep.
more understanding towards how their communication
Yes.
style is. And, you know, and then you'll realize how many walls you've actually put up because of previous experiences. And it's not to say that previous experiences don't help judge future experiences, but
Right.
it's
Right.
kind
But
of like
then your baggage is bleeding over onto the other
well,
people.
and it's like the emotions thing. Your emotions are there to tell you how you feel. They're not there to make decisions for you. Your past is there to show you how your future could go, but it's not there to just dictate your future for you.
Yes.
Boom.
Mic drop. All right, so the next one. Grudges. Grudges and using the past against people. So this is, in a way, a defense mechanism. And also, you know, wounds and whatnot. But this one comes from my ex-husband. When I would bring up my feelings and try to initiate a discussion and say how I felt, he would then take something that I did wrong in the past and be like, well, what about this time that you did this? Be like, whoa. So then that goes back to feeling unheard and like just dismiss what I was having to say. Like, yes, you know what? I would love to discuss how something I did made you feel a certain way. After we address what I brought up, please give me that same respect, like you would like to be heard and whatnot. I can see it in the camera.
He's coming. I've been trying to catch him.
Is that a fly?
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, dismissive of my feelings. If we address yours, then I will acknowledge yours.
Yeah, that's a hard one. But and you know, I will say every time, every single time, if you are the instigator of the conversation, then at any given point in time, you should be ready to listen. Even if you're being interrupted, because you're teaching people how to treat you. So if you cut them off while they're cutting you off, you're not going to get anywhere with them. It's a pissing match. But if you allow them to speak their little piece and then redirect it back to you and be like, look, this is the focus here. We can do yours afterwards, or even better, be like, oh, you know what? All right, we will discuss what you're talking about right now, and we will work through this. But after that, I want to get back to why we're talking in the first place. If you do it that way, if you just take on their shit first, then you've got somebody that's amicable, somebody that's willing to be open, because you're showing them openness. And they have no other alternative. And if they're not going to be open after you've been open to them, then it's not a conversation to be had.
Right.
You know, like you're like, look, I've given you this.
As frustrating
this
as it is, you got to take into account what kind of communication style the person that you are trying to talk to has. Well, and maybe even expect them to come out a little bit defensive.
Well, and it goes back to, like, did they have time to prepare the same way you did? And then it also goes back to that whole, you know, if you stop what you're saying to them, because your whole goal is to be understood, right? So if that's your goal, then you're not going to hold on to the path to get there. So you might have started the conversation, but they may have commandeered it. And if you're willing to be open to them commandeering it, then you're going to see their communication style. You're going to see their understanding.
Ooh.
And if you don't see their understanding, you can address their understanding. And it keeps the topic on them, so they're going to stay more engaged. And then when there's nothing else to discuss, they have nothing else to bring up, you can bring it full circle back to you and tie in all of those points that you just discussed into why you're feeling the way you're feeling. So you've given yourself
That's
a
magical.
whole pile of ammunition to be able to validate what it is you're trying to say, and you're coming from a space of true understanding, because you're using everything that you helped them understand to bring your understanding into it. Damn.
Oof. Beautiful.
I like that.
Yes.
I should have wrote that down. that.
It's okay. We have it recorded
Yes, for sure, for sure.
for posterity.
As long as I was loud enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really the nuts and bolts of it. Is we're always wanting to be first. It's that need for control again, especially when it comes to triggers, especially when you want to be heard and understand. There's an extra push for control in those situations because you're so dire to being understood. You want that so bad that it clouds everything else because that is your focus. And it's okay that it's your focus, but you've got to leave room for the path to be perceived. And it's like a really good definition of playing offensive
like
defensively.
Right. Would you like some jasmine tea with
Would you
that?
like some jasmine tea with that?
Would you like a cup of tea?
So like it goes. That's like your, a good defense is your best offense, or what have you. Offensively playing defensively, like you're just.
Ooh.
Instead of going for the straight jabbing attack, you're disarming them. You're getting rid of their sword. You're dropping their shield. You're removing the armor. And then you can plunge that sword straight through their heart and allow them to see which. That's sword of truth, mind you. We're not talking an actual sword. I mean, unless that helps. But, because what do they say? The truth cuts, and it cuts deep. So if it's going to cut deep, make it a clean cut so it doesn't bleed all over the place, so it's patchable. So that, you can go back stronger.
Don't let it fester.
Don't let it fester.
Ooh.
And there's no need to twist the sword or the knife after it's in. In and out, it's good enough. After that, it's...
I saw this other video. Because all my shit comes from videos.
Me too.
That's how I like to learn.
Videos,
audio and visually. If I can get hands-on, that's even better, but I like the comfort of home.
Just about a couple of books I'd like to get into.
But the video I saw said the fruit does not belong to the tree.
I loved that video. I loved that video. That was so good.
Fruit is equivalent to its ecosystem, What are you watering it with? What are you watering the tree with?
Yeah. And what kind of sustenance is your tree getting? Because if you don't give it good sustenance,
The soil's bad.
It bears shitty fruit.
Bears bad fruit.
And then that fruit gets planted and you get shitty trees with shittier fruit. So if you want to be able to give away the fruit from your own tree, then you've got to nourish your tree.
Yes. Yes.
Take care of it. Love it.
You are a
Appreciate
temple.
it.
So the last one we're going to go into that goes with that is negativity.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Being stuck in the negative is not
This
good
one
for the
is
soul.
hard for me. So hard for me. It's a big pet peeve. Big, icky. I just need, Anyways, people who want to stay in the negative.
And I think it's like a dopamine thing. I think it's a dopamine rush. Staying in the negative, getting that instant validation, having somebody else agree and bash on somebody else with you is a dopamine release. And I think that's a majority of the people that get stuck and stay in that negativity. And then it becomes I don't want to say an addiction necessarily, but it becomes a severe habit. It's something that doesn't feed that craving anymore, but you've done it for so long you don't have any other way to speak. So learning how
Or a victim mentality.
Ooh, yeah, that's another one that's just really rough to be around.
You are the victim. Everything happens to you. You had no control over it. And I'm not trying to be, it comes, I will. Okay. But you know what? I have been around people, and recently I had to put up a boundary. I've said it enough times. Are you venting? We all need to vent. That's what this is. It's a rant vent. But, at the end, we're trying to, find solutions.
Yeah.
So, are you venting? Are you looking for validation? Are you you're not looking to fix anything right now? You just want to feel validated. This happened, and you need to get it off your chest, and you want to feel like it's okay to feel that way. Cool.
Yeah,
you want to be validated. Or are you looking for solutions? And they aren't. They just want to stay in this situation. I can't do anything.
And here's the thing, a really good now that I think about it, a really good compromise on that is starting, like you said, with that. Are you looking for solutions, or is this just a rant sesh? If it really is just a vent sesh, limit it. Be like, all right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to be as negative as you want with it. And then after that, we got to start with some more positive thinking. And it doesn't have to be tied to what you want to rant about, but we got to step back into positivity. Set that boundary in that manner. And if they can't follow that, then you know, and it might be hard for them at first, and you'll have to redirect them back to the positivity 5 million times.
Yeah, there's so many reasons that a person can be in like that negative space. If you had a death in your family, or XYZ happened to you and you are in your emotions, then you are in your emotions. But what I'm talking about is people that just, there's no desire to grow out of it.
And the thing is like, a really good cure for people that are in the victim mentality mindsets, if they can grasp it, is to get outlandish with a hope and dream. Like, whether,
but in a negative mindset, you can't
exactly.
fathom
exactly
anything positive ever happening.
Well, and the reason why I say something outlandish,
and I of all people, I definitely understand how hard it is to start.
Yeah.
Because
you're in such a habit of seeing
so
it.
Maybe it takes somebody with some
you.
light to come down and be like, hey, there is a way that you could come out of this, I promise you. And some people, you can't take the journey away from people. I understand that, but you could lead the way. You can lead the way. Yeah. And I guess that's all it is. There's the solution. You can lead the way, because I ain't staying in the negativity or that dark.
And what's beautiful is, I think a way to counteract the trigger of it is reminding yourself 2 things. It doesn't take a lot of energy to lead them. It doesn't have to take a lot of energy to lead them. It doesn't, right? But that has to be like a personal mindset choice. There doesn't, like, for me, there's no proof in the pudding that it is that way. I just tell myself it doesn't take a lot for me to lead somebody. And then being okay with that being the end result. I'm leading you, and after I'm done leading you, that's that. I will bring you to the trough. I'm not going to force your head in the water. I'm not even going to suggest that water tastes really fucking good, right? I'm just going to show you where that water is, and then I'm going to walk away. And you're either going to take a drink, come back, and tell me how amazing it is, or you're just going to sit there and stare at that water and be like, fuck you, water, I ain't drinking you. And that's your deal. And when I look at it in those terms, then it doesn't take a lot of energy to lead something, because the water trough is only as far as you make it. Because you were
doing it anyways.
Well, and the water trough is only as far as you make it. Like, the more energy you put into it, that's the longer you walked. And I'll tell you what, there's water troughs everywhere. There's one 5 feet in front of you. There's one 30 feet in front of you. Which one do you feel like taking it to? Mm-hmm. You can give them the little step, or you can give them the big step. Which one you think will really help them? And then you do the one that you think helps most, and then that's it. That's enough. You don't have to do anything past that. And you didn't even have to do that. But you chose to do it, and because you did it willingly and with love, you wish that person the best and move on.
Yeah, I shared this other video, I'm pretty sure, on the page that I think it was about, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was this dude who went to the Monroe Institute and talked to an AI that said that the meaning of life was to harness our emotions, or to harness our emotional reaction, to transcend the emotional body. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're reacting to things with what is the word?
Well, it's just that it's not like you're reacting.
No, it's not like you're indifferent to it. It's you're not letting it.
You're acknowledging the emotion. You may even be feeling the emotion, but it's not making the choice for you.
Yeah.
Like,
so
you're in control.
In response
of your
to all
choice.
These triggers, the idea is for them not to be so triggery. When they happen, I can go through it, let it happen in my body, and then it's not gonna make me it's like dealing with negative people. Remember that it's easier to lead the way than it is to just
Well, it is, and remember, like, I'm going to say it 5 million times. You'll hear this word come out of my mouth all the time. Perspective. If you are having an issue with somebody is triggering you, change your perspective. And that doesn't mean, oh, this guy is just, he's having a bad day and I'm just going to let him have this one. It's, oh, I don't have to deal with this guy after this. So whether I decide to rip him a new one or let him go on his way, it'll have been my decision, and it will have been because I wanted to, not because I'm emotionally reacting, not because I feel like I got a chip on my shoulder and it needs to happen. Like, all of those thoughts go away. Your perspective change doesn't have to be changed to something positive, just beneficial. How can you see your situation that you're in as beneficial to your own growth? How is it beneficial to their growth? Is that a possibility? If not, well, then it's not.
Well, maybe it's an opportunity for you to see where they are at on their journey.
And maybe just an opportunity to see where you used to be. A reminder to reflect and be like, damn, I'm doing way better than I used to.
Gosh, yes. You do all this growth and you do all this work and you think that you're never going to have to deal with something like that again because you did all this growth. But no, those things are going to come back, and it'll be a different chance to see where you grew, how you're dealing with it now.
And that's a good perspective change. Instead of seeing it as like, why do I always got to deal with these people? It's, oh my gosh, I've got another reminder about how I don't have to be anymore, or how I could have been if I wouldn't have figured my shit out.
This time I dealt with that person a lot easier, but last time it would have been way harder to deal with.
And next time I've got a couple new tricks up my sleeve, because I read a couple of books, got a couple of things that makes
wrote down 10 different ways that I could say, excuse me, you interrupted me, fucker. Politely.
Man, this is like nut time. This is nut time here.
How you doing?
Doing real well. Having a really good day.
Good.
It started early this morning, but it started probably on a while ago.
That's beautiful to hear.
It's been pretty nice.
It's like at 6:30 this morning, right outside the pool there, on those wrought iron gates, 3 baby gosh hops. We're sitting there. Hey man, what's going on? I didn't even notice until I was 2 feet away.
Oh, that's so cool.
I can sit there and go, hey, I'm just stoned on you until you're ready to eat me, I'm ready to eat you. But I lived out in the desert, and I lived out in the desert as well. I lived in 4-axle pickup truck that I've done for 25 years, and now it's 31 feet long.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Just like a Muslim, I live in Western. I got a lot of family, and about 4 years ago, I completely disassociated myself from the fallacy called the Mormon church, but I'm extremely spiritual. In fact, the whole park I know by name and feeling.
Yeah.
I know
this
that.
park?
I'm talking about between the grass and my toes. So this morning I had this, not right after that, right now, maybe 3 hours later, I go and have a little breakfast in my own, my girlfriend gets her 3 best hours of sleep between 7:30 and 10:30. Of course, she's one of those. That's cool. I was raised by a mother like that, but I'm not a swing shifter anyway. So I come over here and I'm walking around the park and they're doing a little instruction for the 10-year-olds tennis, and then I saw some people that I thought were going to go homeless around. They were just putting their bag rolls up off the park, and there was a yoga mat session starting. And so I'm like listening to my buzz. I'm going to do a circle of the park, and because I don't want to be too intentional with my truth in my eyes. Anyway, we had a really good time. Just 3 hours.
We talk a lot about truth that we see.
Oh, complete truth. I mean,
yes.
Because I've been this way my whole life. I was never that part of that hypocrisy, but they got them to where they just hide in their temples and say, praise our God. I mean, it couldn't be more idolatrous if you called anybody.
We are currently doing a live session
on
Facebook.
Moroni on top of a ball saying, this is the new Jerusalem here. We are the Zionists of America. Oh yeah, they're a Zionist of America.
I grew up Mormon.
Whereabouts were you raised? I'm 5th generation Archibald Gardner down in Salt Lake. He built all the sawmills, the first one in City Creek, and I'm from the 8th Rifle 11, and there's a monument over in Afton, Wyoming.
I was born
because we went up to Beartooth and over down through Afton, because direct line, and I lived in Montpelier, Pocatello, Rupert, 30 years, Horseman. But my parents are from Cache Valley, but when I was 5, I was in Guatemala and se habla español.
That sounds like a lot
But
of fun.
the thing was I didn't know what it meant to live a normal life, and my dad just said, you want it, you ask for it, you go for it. Yeah. God will just channel you wherever you are. If you're very well-meaning, he was an emotional man, of course.
Mm-hmm. you're not wrong. That's where it is. You've got to set the
And
intention
a lot
go
of people
for
get
it.
offended when you use this word tent because it's go to the tantric, but tantric just means slowing down.
Yeah.
It's part of that clock of in the sky, the eternal prayer world. But I'm not too much into one specific. I just take many truths, and I'm constantly just finding it. So anyway, I'm over here talking to these people for 2 hours after the 45-minute session. I'm like, I need to get home. We started at 9 o'clock, and I said, hey, you want to join us? I'm like, oh wow, this isn't deep because I've been going through some pretty transcendental stuff. Been pulling people out of the fire, so they still live among us. I've lost a lot, but I've gained a lot just by because I can feel.
Well, you've got to let go to make room
I
for
can
what
feel
is,
my
right?
dead body. It's like I am not like Anakin Skywalker with a midichlorian count or whatever, right?
Well, but
I mean, you
maybe
know what I
are,
mean.
you
It's the
never know.
intensity that you dial it up, and if you're born with that intensity, I've been a Tool and Dashinist, and let me share how I share joy, and then I'll just let you get on with your Zen. This is true here. I am the lineman for the county, and I drive the main roads, looking in the sun for another overload. I can hear you in the wires, I can hear you in the wine, and the Wichita lineman is still on the line. I know I need a short vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows that stretch down south, it won't ever hold a strain. And good night to you.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I appreciate
I was
that.
raised in a Mormon choir. I sang soprano, melody,
Do you have?
stronger than being a choir boy because my mom was a rare soprano, and I'm the youngest of 8 and sang in the car everywhere.
Do you by chance have Facebook? We're doing a live session that was on there, and
Holy
something you could
crap.
go check if you want.
You little shit.
It's
You're like heart mongers. Okay, you want to hear it now. Now here you want to hear this for truth. Okay, we're talking about truth.
Yeah.
Wherever the camera goes.
That's what it is too.
And it's this. I know you've heard this song. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, how they grow. Consider the birds in the sky, how they fly, how they fly. He clothes the lilies of the field, he feeds the birds in the skies, and he will feed you if you are in friends with his desires. You see, I changed up the song just so it's not the true consider the lilies, but every feeling we have is already within us, and we're transcendental, time-traveling seeds of eternity built within the compendium of Akashic and intentional thought.
Woo!
I love it.
Amen.
If that was posted, that's retribution, whoever you are. And you know who you are because I got lots of relatives. 40 nephew and nieces, and I have 4 natural and 4 stepchildren after the death of my first wife 21 years ago.
Bless your heart.
God bless your souls, and follow the 10 Commandments down to the best interpretation that you can feel nature will support. Because nature controls everything, because God is everywhere.